Hello, everybody. As I asked you yesterday to read through Colossians 3 today, because Colossians 3 continues this theme of being raised with Christ. Yesterday we saw in chapter 2, verse 20, that we have died with Jesus Christ. So why do we keep submitting to earthly things and all these self-made religions? They're our past. That's not who we are anymore. We've been raised with Christ. Let's read Colossians chapter 3, verse 1 through 3, or 1 through 4 to start off with, and we can ask the question. Let me just read it, and then we'll ask the question. If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ appears, who is your life, then you also will appear with him in glory. Let's stop there. We'll read some more in a moment. So right now, keep your mind on things above, not on things on earth. You see, Christ is in heaven right now, so we keep our mind on things where he is because our life is hidden in his life. Even though we're here today in this world, in the struggles of this fallen world, and we still fight the flesh, technically, in some mysterious, beautiful, wonderful way, we are with Christ in the heavenlies right now, seated at the right hand of God. And someday he's going to return, according to verse 4, and he's going to cause our bodies to be raised from the dead on that day, and we will be like him. You can read the 1 John chapter 2 and 3, at the end of chapter 2 and the beginning of chapter 3, it talks about that when we see him, we will be like him and be just like him. So, what does it mean to keep your mind on things above, not things on earth? That's a very important question. Often when someone says that, don't think of earthly things. Almost always in our Western affluent culture, we tend to think of things like cars and boats and houses, fancy clothes, physical, material items. Don't think about that stuff. That's not good. That's not spiritual. That's earthly things. Think on heavenly things. The thing is that when you do that, you go, well, if those are earthly things, what's heavenly things? And so there's no comparable there. What I want to suggest to you is those things are not what Paul is talking about. They may or may not be good for you. That's a whole other conversation. Here, though, he defines what is earthly and what is heavenly. In chapter 3, he defines them for us. I want to read on here and as we look at those things. So we're going to start in verse 5. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you. Not talking about cars and houses. Put to death what is earthly in you. Here it is. Sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desires, and covetousness, which is idolatry. That's where those things could be bad for you, the cars and houses and boats and things. If it's covetousness, it's bad. They in themselves are not bad, but covetousness is bad. On account of these things, the wrath of God is coming. And see, it's coming against people who don't know Jesus, and that's not who you are anymore. So it's not coming against you. Keep your mind on things above. Put to death those things. He goes on. In these things you too once walked when you were living in them. But now you must put them all away. Anger, wrath, malice, slander, and obscene talk from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have put off the old self with its practices, that's the earthly things, and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its creator. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. That's beautiful. But for today, the idea of putting your mind on things above, which actually we'll talk about what those things are tomorrow. But here today, we need to focus on things that are earthly, are all the evil deeds we used to do before we knew Jesus. The immoralities and the slander and the hatred and the stuff that comes out of our mouth against one another. That's earthly stuff. That's who you used to be. You died to that stuff. But now we put our mind on heavenly things, which tomorrow, well, you have to wait for tomorrow, or read ahead, you'll see them. But for today, I want us to focus, or just to summarize this, that the idea of you've been raised with Christ, let's start with you've died with Christ, and you've been raised with him. You are a new person. Who you used to be is dead. You want to explore that some more, go to Romans chapter 6. We died with Jesus Christ. And it's just not a fancy thing to say. Something truly happened. When he died on the cross, you died on the cross. When he was buried in the ground, you were buried in the ground. And when he was raised from the dead, you were raised from the dead. And all these things have ramifications for how I live my life. So the whole lifestyle and value system and how I treated other people and was with evil passions and things like that, that's dead. It's not who I am anymore. So you need to look at your life and say, do you see that reflected in your life? Can you see evidence that who you used to be is dead? And you have your eyes on Christ who is in heaven and for the things that he now brings you, which is our conversation for tomorrow. So keep reading in Colossians chapter 3, and we'll talk about things above tomorrow.